And so for me, the one of the key impact models that I follow as a principle, as a person, is to actually see then how am I using my skill, as you said, and knowledge to really improve access to financial services. So we call it financial inclusion. And this cuts across, of course, just not just looking at the formal sector, but what we are now very intentional about is then how do we get into the informal sector and ensure that everyday Kenyan can actually access these life-changing products.
So when you're talking about the informal sector, obviously a lot of people, whenever they think about insurance, right? And you're right, people in the grassroots levels might tend to think that, insurance is only for those who have vehicles, big houses, expensive gadgets, and so on and so forth. So how then are you, or rather, what is your company doing, or what role are you participating in ensuring that, we can educate people, that especially when it comes to something that is that's something that ubiquitously affects all of us, like health. How do you start from that mama mboga? Right? Because whenever we're talking about people like Charles, Charles is the CEO, right? Charles knows these things, okay? But then how do we get to educate people on the grassroots levels that this is important, this is something that you need to consider looking into?
And I think I'll pick off from what you actually mentioned, which is very critical. And the reason why we don't have, I would say, very impressive penetration is how we actually disseminate information to the informal sector. So some of the key things that...
this guy is using a lot of technical words. I feel like I should have a dictionary right next to me. Disseminate information.
So one of the key things that we've done is to really begin working with what we call the informal sector and the gig economy at large. And I'll give you very good examples. So when you look at the taxi economy, it's really growing. And what we've been able is to really go down and sit with drivers, understand their day-to-day challenges, and actually tailor products that actually address those needs. One of the other key things that we've seen also across the industries is insurance is actually very detached from your day-to-day customer because of how we sell, how we actually integrate ourselves in the society.
How it's advertised.
Absolutely. It speaks to only, as you said,
the CEO types like
the
Mr.
Charleses of this world.
No. The Charles, the millionaires and the billionaires that we hang around with.
Gentlemen.
Charles, we got to put you on the spot
I
today.
tell you, man.
Absolutely.
But so is that then, does that mean that you're using the equity kind of a model that Equity Bank used, right? So as you both well know, a couple of decades ago, a lot of people in the grassroots levels did not have access to
banking activity.
So is that what you're trying to do in your business?
Pretty much, yes, but do it in a very neat and more perfected model, learning, of course, from, as you said, equity. So one of the key things that we were shocked, Dennis and Charles, is actually your daily Kenyan actually has insurance, but we have insurance in a very different form. Harambee is actually insurance. We don't pay premiums, but we collect premiums during disasters. So what we've actually been able to do is first and foremost provide what you'd call digital capabilities to allow users to be able to do this. And when you talk about grassroots, you can't talk about applications and apps. Those are the sweeteners you leave for Charles and the iPhone people of this world. So we've gone
I don't have an iPhone anymore.
So we've gone really granular, and one of the key things we've done is leverage things like USSD. So today, your mama mboga can easily dial *723# and begin saving. And that really empowers them to actually have a view of how they can save, they can see their money grow, and they get exposure, of course, to different assets within our business.
So Isaac, what you mean is that the mama mbogas can use a feature phone?
Absolutely.
So you do not have to have a smartphone to get an insurance.
Correct. And more so, you don't even need to visit an insurance office to actually begin planning, let's say, for your retirement. You can do this at the comfort of your kibanda. You can set up an account. And again, as you said, it's the same model Equity used. You don't need to visit. There are no hidden costs around it. And you can begin actually to create what I would call a safe future and a dignified future for yourself. Because you take control of how much you're investing. You get to see how much returns you're getting, almost in real-time basis, but also you get access to other financial, I would say, services that you'd otherwise don't get within that level.
So my question would be, the rich, and the impact. That's key issues, because many people, the way they see insurance as a very far-reaching, of people who have made it in life, someone who can pay premium and all this. Yet the people who need to be insured most are the most vulnerable, the people who are in the mtaa, the people who are in the border industry, the people who are selling bogas and all this.
Yeah.
So what impact have you reached, and what are the numbers like?
No, absolutely. And I think let's make it spice. Let's break down the myth. I think one of the key things we say, you tend to get people saying, I'm too young. I don't need insurance. Or in other cases, we've seen people say, my business is actually my pension. But one of the key things you'll notice within this market is businesses fail, but we've never had any pension program that actually went under. So one of the key things, and I think from an impact perspective and what we've been able to do within Sanlam as an institution, we track impact in different models. One is, I think, Charles, as you mentioned, reach. And I'll give you an example. Last year, we actually piloted with one of the partners, being able to embed insurance, because then again, it's very hard, as you said, to wake up today and say, I'm going to buy insurance. But last year, through a partnership with one of the telco companies, we were able to embed device insurance. So you pick your phone from the store, and when you get home, you get a message saying your phone is secured. Because one of the key things we also noticed is devices have become an integral part of what we do on a day-to-day basis. Right?
Like, I mean, your device, like, if you set up an insurance business in London, like, you'd be making it good. Have you seen what's happening in London at the moment?
Tell me about it.
Well, Charles, you know what's happening in London. Like, there is actually, the government got to a point where there's just so many phones that get snatched. So then, I suppose my point is, because you're in insurance business, you could create a niche that says, hey, listen, if you misplace your phone, we could be able to insure for it, or you could literally insure for it. But anyway, I just go on a tangent. Please go ahead.
And just picking up on that, from an impact perspective, Charles, we were able to get more than 400,000 customers actually purchasing the product within the first 4 months. So for us, that's how impact actually looks like, where you're able to actually scale insurance in a very easy, efficient way, so that your day-to-day person can actually integrate with. And I think my friend here would actually also talk about the jargons that we use within the insurance space. So one of the things we've done is to really localize the language that we use as an insurance company. So making it very easy for you to know when you come on board, what is it that you're getting, but also most importantly, because I can see in his eyes, they're very burning. When it comes to the claim process, how smooth and efficient that process also looks like.
Here's the thing. Before we get to the claims part, okay? But in that process of convincing the grassroots level people that, listen, you're getting into this plan, but there is a cost associated with maintaining this premium. For this premium to be, for this cover to be alive, you got to pay premiums. How do you convince people in Kenya, right, in the grassroots level, who have perhaps never understood how insurance works, but how do you convince them that this paying premiums supersedes the risk that, might happen in the future? How are you able to kind of dial that language down so that they can understand the importance of paying premium? Because listen, if it's a product that you're buying a one-off, right? If I go to the market, Charles, nanunua machungwa, it's 30 bob. That's 30 bob, and that's it. Insurance doesn't work like that.
Absolutely.
Insurance works in sequential installment payment sort of deal. How then do you kind of tell them that this is more important? This is something you should, take time to invest in. This is something you should prioritize. How does that work?
Yeah, and I think, Dennis, you're actually spot on. One of the key things that we've noticed within this market, and this is actually shifting how we are actually also approaching insurance. We've seen there's a huge appetite for saving and investment. And that's why within the business, we launched something called Akiba Plus. So for us, it's a very soft way to introduce insurance based on what Kenyans are already using today.
Okay.
So, I mean, when you look at your phone today, you can easily put some money away using some of the tools provided, some being, of course, money market as an example. So what we've done is to begin to introduce elements of why you need to actually invest on your retirement. But then how do you break it down? I mean, when you look at it, and let's demystify, you can actually work for 30 years, but one day you're guaranteed. One thing that is certain is that cash flow will stop, right?
But definitely.
Absolutely.
You can't work in perpetuity.
You cannot. But then there's one thing that doesn't stop, and that is your cost. Your utilities will keep on going up, as well as the requirements also from a medical
and your health will deteriorate.
Absolutely. So what we've been able to do is to really equip them with tools. So right now, if you look at our product journeys, we don't actually rush you to the product. We want you first to understand why you're saving, why you're setting up at that goal.
So you integrate it with like, what are your personal goals?
Absolutely.
What do you want to achieve?
Absolutely. Yes.
Fair enough.
So, Isaac, what you've talked about, and I see most of it is on the digital platforms, because everyone is digital. Are you going to take advantage of AI to map the areas where people need insurance most, and the sectors and the gap in the industry? And
first, are you scared about AI? Like, I am actually curious. Are you scared about AI?
Absolutely, yes.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's going to replace us all, but it will not replace you and Charles, because AI doesn't have that creativity.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
What about those videos where I've seen people making it such that a politician is saying X, Y, Z? I mean, like, this is all virtual. Like, they could do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's going on a tangent. Why don't you tell us whether this is being used in the insurance space?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question. And when you talk about AI, there are 3 steps to actually reaching that step. So the first step is actually what we call digitization, which is picking your paper from your cabinets and making them into digital form. That is something that we passed years ago. And now we are going through the motions of actually digitalization, where you're now building the customer journeys that are more efficient for a digital customer. And then most importantly for us, Charles, one of the key things that we know we will be doing is actually personalize, because the needs of Dennis are definitely
different.
going to be very different from your needs. So one of the key things that you will see coming out, especially across our platforms, as you use Akiba Plus as an example, we will study your saving patterns. And through AI, we'll be able to guide you on how you can either improve, because also the beauty about it, when you're saving for your retirement, as an example, there are tax efficiencies that Kenyans don't know about. I am hired, I am supposed to contribute, let's say, for an individual pension plan. I can enjoy up to 30,000 Kenya shillings a month as a tax incentive. So for us, how AI will come into play very critically. One is going to actually drive what we call understanding. So building what you'd call financial nuggets that we can share with the audience and our customers to be able to understand their saving journey. But also, most importantly, I think it's going to be on personalization. And you touched on something very important from a claim perspective. One of the key things that we've already started piloting on is how we can use AI to beat fraud, because that's still a very thorny issue within the insurance sector.
On that issue of claims, like, obviously we have a lot of people who have created this negative notion that the insurance companies are always, hands open whenever it's taking your premium. But when push comes to shove, when you actually find yourself in that eventuality, then it's kind of difficult for you to get your claims. So what is the process from your point? Like, first of all, address it from the difficulty standpoint, right? The challenge that people often encounter whenever they are going to claim. So can you talk a little bit about claims? Because I feel like people don't have a problem with insurance companies until it gets to that point of, okay, I've just been involved in an accident. Now my parents are ill. My house has been, in flames, and so on and so forth. But the question is, well, first of all, address that process. How do we make it more efficient and dispel any adverse notions towards the claim process in insurance?
Yeah. Thanks for that, Dennis. And I think one of the key things, actually, the claim experience needs to start, as you said, from actually onboarding. And in many cases, I think where we've seen challenges is where customers actually come and say, but you told me this is not covered, but it's hidden somewhere within the fine print.
First of all, Isaac, do you acknowledge that that's a problem?
It is. It's still a big problem.
It's
in the
still
market.
a problem,
Absolutely.
right? You've seen a lot of people who have feel duped or swindled out of their money from insurance companies.
Correct. Yes. Yes. And I think to actually address that, one of the critical things that needs to be done is to make sure that the customer is actually purchasing a product that they are fully aware of. Yeah. Right? And one of the key things that we've done is to actually do a need assessment before you actually purchase any of the Sanlam products.
Well, what do you mean a need assessment?
To get to really understand who is Dennis, what are your current risk challenges, and then position the products that might suit,
so kind of customize it.
It's very customized to your needs.
Right.
That is very important, because then what we get a lot of in the market is what you'd call mis-selling, where maybe you were looking for a retirement product, but we ended up giving you an educational cover as an example. Yeah. So that's where I think the journey needs to begin. And then secondly, and most importantly, when you talk about digitization, Dennis, we don't need to only focus on digitizing the onboarding process. Right. The claim experience also has to be digital end to end. And also from our end, when you look at our Akiba Plus platform as an example, when you're putting in your money, when you want to withdraw, you actually do it online. You don't need to visit any of our offices. You don't need to call anyone within the business. Everything is actually meant to be more, I would say, more efficient. And critically also, I think with the, as you said, emerging technologies that we have within the market, what we've seen what many underwriters are now doing is to really remove some of the exclusions that were there within the policies. And I'll give you one example. Before the whole story around mental health came into being, do you know it was actually one of the key things excluded? So you might have a life cover, you decide. But these days, since it became an issue and a big issue, and it became actually it's a form of a disease, it's actually covered. So what we need to do, I think, as an industry is to also look at, of course, all these other, because where we tend to have that beta engagement with the customers is normally within those fine prints. The insurer will say this was excluded, and the customer will say, I did not see.
And you didn't inform me.
You didn't tell me well in advance.
You gotta educate me on this, Isaac. And I'm gonna play a little naive right now, just so that I can get a little bit informed on this. Are you saying that, let's say someone's got autism, right? Is that something that you can insure for? The threshold of defining mental illness, how does that work? Because I just feel like that's a gray area. You can't really say, let's say, for example, myself as an example, and then I get into an accident, and then my mental faculties, or I get a brain injury. How does that work? Is there any gray areas in the scope of insurance for mental health?
So the beauty about it now, no, because I think one of the key things that was done is to actually scrap mental illness as an exclusion for many medical and life insurance policies. So right now you wouldn't get anyone actually excluding you from cover because of such incidences.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are the numbers? If you look at the numbers we're talking about in the people who've are picking up the insurance, what is the least amount of money they should pay as premium, and what is the range?
The money talk.
Yeah,
absolutely. And one of the key things, again, as we demystify, this goes back to what you mentioned, Charles. You talk insurance, people think it's product meant for the wealthy people, but that's not the case. And again, allow me just to use this as an example, because it's a very simplest form of insurance. Did you know, Charles, you can actually get a cover for less than 100 shillings a day? Yes, really? It's very possible. I mean, right now,
health cover,
life cover. Wow. For as low as 100 shillings. Just to give you an example, today we are insuring little cab drivers for as little as 80 shillings. So every time they are doing their trips, they only pay 80 shillings, and should something happen to them, they actually get cover. And one of the key things that we're really trying to break down, Charles, is the notion that insurance is expensive. It's not. It should actually be that tool that you actually use to safeguard your wealth. And that's why you'd find one of the key things also we've done, many players, especially within the investment sector, would tend to give you what you call minimum amount you need to invest.
Yep.
You'll see some doing 5,000, others would do 3,000.
Right.
But for us, you're starting for as low as 500, right? And if you break that down and it's 500 a month, on a daily basis, that's how much. I think you should be the mathematician here, Dennis.
Sorry,
It's as little as...
I didn't get that. See, whenever someone asks me a very conk question on mathematics, I usually...
What did you get in mathematics today?
No. Can you listen? I'm a walking calculator. Ask that question again.
Perfect. So I was actually mentioning that we've been able to reduce the minimum required for you to do investments on things like personal pension plans, as well as post-retirement medical fund, and this is as low as 500 shilling a month.
Right.
So if you actually break that down to a weekly basis, it's less than 50 shillings. On a daily basis, which means then it actually makes the cover very affordable and very accessible.
And
to the
where
masses.
can people get this information? Because I like what you've said, and I suppose, listen, if you're out there and you're pondering on getting good coverage, looking into investment, investing in your future, I'd like you to reach out to Mr. Isaac. Isaac, how can people get into your portfolio, and how can they get access to what you're offering?
Yeah, so there are different journeys that we've done to ensure that customers can be able to integrate with this with ease, and what we call it an omni-channel experience. So one of the critical ways is, if you're digital savvy, you can actually go to akibaplus.co.ke. You should be able to access the investments that we've been provided over there. Most importantly, I think, as we discussed, one of the other key ways is to, if you're using a feature phone, by just dialing *723#, you'll get an experience to be able to also begin your journey. But also, most interesting, if you're listening to Spice, so you need to you keep on tuning in to SpiceFM, because again, these are guys who are really looking at investing in your future. But also, most importantly, one of the key decisions we made this year is we decided to open a TikTok channel.
Really?
So, yes, really. Yes, and for us, it goes back to what you mentioned. We really want to demystify insurance using the channels that, of course, the youthful market are currently using.
Because
that's actually a really good way of reaching out to young people who do not know.
They're on Snapchat.
Yeah, they're on Snapchat watching dances, but they can also
become more active, informed in that channel.
In that space.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, I think I want us to stop it a bit there because of time. We'll come back, and then we have a round of questions for Mr. Isaac Mwangi. Of course, Mr. Isaac Mwangi is the head of
gentlemen,
innovation.
give me some time to Google more questions.
Mr. Isaac Mwangi is the head of innovation at Sanlam Insurance, and we're talking about insurance and many other things which affect your life, and why you should actually save for your future, for medical and all this, and for pensions. About why you should take insurance, and why insurance is not out of reach for you who think that insurance is for people who have a bit of stable income. We are saying that insurance is for everybody, provided you have any sort of income, and you have to do it at the comfort of your home. You do not need to move to find out what you can be insured for. But Isaac also told us you can actually get insured for as low as 80 shillings a day for life insurance. So
Charles. It's very cheap money.
What are you talking about?
But see, the other thing that I've noticed about what Isaac was talking about was how easy it is to access their services. If you go to akibaplus.co.ke, and if you go to Sanlam, if you Google it, actually it's the first thing that pops up. But just the convenience of accessing their services, and also just looking at the numerous insurance products that they offer. It's a very seamless platform. So if you want to join... and if you want to find out about what Isaac does, you can go to akibaplus.co.ke and Sanlam. But before we went, Charles, during that break, there's a question that I had mooted to Mr. Isaac here.
What did you ask Mr. Isaac?
So when we're talking about insurance innovation, there's a question, and now I know you have had enough time to think about how you're going to respond to this. But the question was, are you doing innovation in getting people to access insurance product, or improving insurance products? Where is the innovation part comes when it comes to insurance? Now, here's the thing, Isaac, that I'm sure you and I know, we are privy to this. When it comes to insurance product, we already know what they are. You know what I mean? Health, gari, nyumba, simu. And is there a potential of those products being broadened? Like, I feel like we've already gotten to the maximum amount of products that you can have in insurance coverage. Help me understand this, Isaac.
Yep, absolutely. Within Sanlam, we focus on what is called customer-centric innovation.
Right.
And when you look at that journey, one of the key things that we currently do is actually start off first with the product. So you don't want to bring a traditional product and actually try and, of course, glitter it and sell it as a digital capability. So we start off first by innovating on the product, and how we build our products is, as I mentioned initially, we sit with the customer to understand what their actual needs are. So once we satisfy that critical thing of building empathy and understanding what the customer need is, we then go to the next step, which is to look at then how do we distribute this in a very efficient and effective way. So, and one of the key things that we've done is collaboration, because we want to make sure that insurance becomes a lifestyle. Dennis, how would you imagine if you just drive in with your car, which is insured, into as an example, a Shell petrol station. And once you fuel your car, you're told that you're actually enjoying discounts, and those discounts will be sent into your pension account. So that's how we are trying to reimagine insurance, because it needs to be a lifestyle. You need to enjoy it as you actually use your day-to-day services.
Are you saying that I should be fueling my car at Shell?
I'm actually saying you should insure with Sanlam.
So that's the first step.
Yes.
And then I might get the other dividends.
Absolutely.
And the other incentives that come with insuring with Sanlam.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like that.
So Isaac, when you talk about the numbers, and I like you said you'll go granular, and I've seen that you are taking care of people who necessarily do not have insurance, and you're targeting boda mamambogas, and basically what in Kenya we call in street lingo kadogo economies. And the volumes are always very high. Do you have the capability and capacity to, if all those numbers get in, will you successfully manage them?
Absolutely, and I think that's a very good and critical question. And I think I would have started off by first picturing who Sanlam is. We're actually the largest non-banking financial institution in Africa. And right now we're actually merging with Allianz, which is the largest insurance company in the world. So when you look at those two entities, what we've done is build capacity, both from a technical competency perspective, but also from a financial perspective, as you asked Charles, to be able to actually provide financial confidence for the masses that we want to onboard. You and me, we can agree that there's no way you can actually onboard all those customers using manual processes. And that's why for us, we've been very deliberate in building digital capabilities, so that when it comes to onboarding, servicing, engagement, as well as claims, everything is actually happening in a very, I would say, exciting way using digital capabilities. That's why for us this year we introduced Akiba Plus, because then it gives our customers the reach, but also most importantly, it gives them the service that they would actually need to access in a mobile fast world.
I like that. I like that. Very informative.
So I think because of time, I want us to finish our interview. But what are you looking up to this year in numbers? What was the first the numbers do you see you'll have in the near future for the number of guys who are onboarding?
Yeah, I think as a fact, I just want to position this so that you understand the opportunity. 80% of retirees in Kenya depend on what we call black tax, right? From friends, from charity, from their children. One of the key things we've seen within the market, life expectancy is actually growing, which means Charles, we're going to live longer. But also, most importantly, when you talk about the Kadogo economy, the cost of living is actually jumping up. And all that means is whatever we're enjoying today in the future is going to become very, very expensive. So for us, we're very ambitious. We want to first hit the first 1 million of Kenyans being able to, of course, begin saving towards their retirement. And how that benefits us as a country is actually we start to reduce what you call the dependency ratio and the Harambees. I mean, they're too much.
They're too much.
Yes. And the beauty about it, then you empower people to now be conscious and take care, of course, of their future. I think one of the key things we normally say, Bonasio, is you cannot predict the future, but absolutely you have the power to protect the future that you want to have.
That's a quote that can only be given by an insurance guy. That's a very good quote, though. I like it.
You can protect.
You can protect you cannot be able to
predict
the future, but you can be able to protect the future.
Absolutely.
Very good quote.
And live with confidence.
I like that.
So, Isaac, you've been the head of innovation at Sanlam. So, what other innovations are you guys working on?
Great. So one of the key things that we also want to do from a life insurance perspective, I think when you look at our culture and we talk about funeral, we see it as a taboo. Right? But what we want to do is to be able to embed it as a service, right? So that we give Kenyans what we call a dignified send-off. Yep. The other key things that we've actually begun to do is to actually also engage educational institutions, so that if you have a child, Charles, one of the key things that you always worry about is, will my kid actually complete their education?
My school fees one is very high. I was telling this gentleman.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's not cheap.
Absolutely, it's not. And the scare we have as parents is that if something happens to me, then they will not.
The termination of that process.
Absolutely. And that's the asset you're giving them. That's the akiba you're actually handing them. So one of the key products you'll see us also roll out would be more of an educational product that actually guarantees you protection for your child until they complete what we call their tertiary education. And that's very basic, because then they get access to what you'd call life-changing skills. And the beauty about it is from that, then they're able to improve their livelihoods. At the end of the day for us, and that's why we have that very special tagline. What we want to ensure is that we can actually embed ourselves across different channels and enable our customers to continuously live with confidence. So that as Charles here comes to SpiceFM, he knows that everything, when it comes to, of course, we are already exposed. You already have a car insurance. You have a life insurance. You have a phone insurance. But one of the key things we've not done very well, I think, as a country, is actually protect what matters: your life, your income, as well as your family. And that's the space that we want to play into.
Quite honestly, Charles, I wish we had so much more time, because there's just so much, I think, that we can learn from just this gentleman. But I feel like because of time, we would recommend you, audience, to check out their website. That's sanlam.co.ke, and also check out some of the products that they've rolled out this year. That's at akibaplus.co.ke. And Mr. Isaac, thank you so much for being with us today. That has been amazingly informative. And you're always welcome to come back to the show. I don't know what CEO, whether you got something.
No. I think Isaac has really told us a lot of new things which we needed. An audience there out here must really appreciate the fact that you've given us a lot of info, which is good for betterment of their life and also to plan their future. And the biggest thing is you better plan your future now than wait until you cannot do anything about it. So we really appreciate you, Isaac, and thank you for coming every single day. We invite you when you have time. Please tell guys this.
We'll have to reschedule a whole session.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Isaac, for being here.